Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for a brand new Film Fanatic show. It is 10:07 on a Monday morning, March 23rd. So yeah, hope everyone's doing good. Friday, this past Friday was the technically the first day of spring, but it sure doesn't feel like it. We got a lot of snow. We got about maybe 4 or 5 inches last night, but it's a heavy snow. It's melting. I think it's on the warmer side, but enough to where I was gonna go. I had a tentative plan to go to the movies yesterday with some friends, and we were gonna go to a matinee. But then the theater was
Powering
closed,
off.
the Colonial Theater. We were gonna go see the the new Ryan Gosling film Project Hail Mary. I've heard some good things about it, and it looks like a pretty interesting movie. Definitely a movie to see in the theater. We were going to go to see it yesterday, but then the theater was totally closed. So, yeah, kind of weird. And I ended up going out to the store. I had to do a little bit of shopping, so I wanted to check out what the roads were like. I don't really mind driving in the snow if I absolutely have to. My truck is pretty good in the snow, but I had to run out to the store to do a couple of errands, and I figured, well, I could put it off and just not do that today because the roads, I heard that the roads were going to be getting bad like in the early afternoon. But then I was like, well, if I don't do it today, then I'm going to have probably a little less time today to do it, which is today's Monday. So I was like, well, screw it. I'll just get out of the house and see how it is. And I went to town into Belfast, and then I went to the store. The roads were shit. The roads were absolutely horrible. It was really surprising. Yeah, the whole way through. I wouldn't have, I went within a, 7 to 10 minute radius. I wouldn't have gone any further by driving. So yeah, really surprising. But it'll probably melt pretty soon. But it is what it is. So technically, winter is still here. Definitely been a pretty lively winter here in Maine. This winter season's been pretty heavy with snow, and I think at school, at work, probably have had maybe five snow days. It's hard to keep track, but we've had a pretty decent amount. There were a few delays and things like that. So anyway, this week got some music shows coming up. Friday, if you're around in town in Midcoast area, gonna be playing with Osmia at Hey Sailor. Super excited about being back there. That's a great video of I was watching. I should say I was watching a video last night of my first show with Osmia. Last year we did a pretty big tour, and I had literally just started playing with him. And our first show at for the tour, that like kind of the kickoff, or my first gig ever with Osmia was at Hey Sailor. So I was watching that video, and it was exactly a year ago. It was a trip to see that. I don't like my playing in that video now. It's like I don't know. It was really funny. I dug the video at first, and I was like, okay, it sounds pretty cool or whatever. But now I can't watch it. It makes me kind of cringe. I was still learning the tunes, and I was still like trying to figure it out, and I still am. I'm still trying to always make things a little bit groovier or more cohesive and dynamic. So I'm always trying to make that a better thing. But it was funny watching that video because I was like, man, we only had a few weeks rehearsal before that show. That was the first show, and then a day or two later, we left for the tour part that we eventually went to. Farthest we went was Washington D.C., and then we ended up coming back, and then the last show of the tour, the first show of the tour was in Hey Sailor at Searsport, and then the last show was at the Ephodian in Portland. But it was a an amazing experience. So, and we just did another little tour about almost a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now, about 2 weeks ago. We did another tour with Osmia. So this Friday we'll be at Hey Sailor. The show starts at 7 o'clock. So if you're around, come on by. And then on Saturday we have another Quantum show coming up at the American Legion Hall with Phil Hummer and the White Falcons. They started this series probably, well, last year. It's been going for probably about a year, but they do these music kind of showcases. I think it's like bi-monthly, where they have three different groups. Sometimes it's two bands or three bands. Sometimes it's like a duo or a solo artist, but they always have three groups, three bands. So we'll be doing a quantum set. So I'm pretty excited about playing there. The Legion Hall is a really, you wouldn't really think it, but the American Legion Hall in Belfast is actually really awesome because it's a really big Legion Hall, and there's a big stage, and there's plenty of space to dance, and it's actually a great spot. It's probably got, you know, as far as venues locally, it's probably got actually, the most space. So it's very cool. So, and then I'm also going to be playing, sitting in with the White Falcons as well. I used to play with them fairly frequently, and then I wasn't able to play a few gigs after 1 year of kind of playing together for the most part a lot. I wasn't able to do a few other gigs. They have a bunch of other drummers that they use, and so that's what they were doing. And they've had a particular guy, I think, play drums with them for a while. So this will be the first gig I will be playing with them since probably since last winter. The last gig I had with them was actually at the Legion Hall. It might have been springtime. It might have been exactly a year ago, or a little bit less. But it was at the Legion Hall, and I had played a gig there. It was part of the same kind of showcase with Bookhead Sweet Tooth, and then they asked me about playing with them too. And I think that was the last time. Their music's really great. It's like rockabilly punk. So yeah, it'll be fun. So come on by if you're around. And I think that show, Saturday show, starts at 6:30. So yeah, I lately, as far as movies go, I have been obviously doing tons of videos on Friday 13th. I got a new series going where I've been doing a series of new videos and shows on each actor slash stuntman who has played Jason Voorhees over the years. So very, very cool. It's been super fun. And I think I left off the last Friday 13th video as far as the actors in this newer series. I think the last one I finished off on, finished with, the last video I uploaded was Jason Lives, part 6, I believe. Super fun. So my intentions are to finish out the rest of the movies, part 6, and then the newest one that I'll do is part 7, which is A New Beginning, and then Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, and then the reboot. So it's a fun series. I've been learning about even more things about the franchise and the actors who have been in the movies over the years, especially with the actors who have played Jason over the years. It's been super fun. As much of a nerd as I am, and I love, and I think I know a few things about it, as it is, because it's my favorite horror franchise and my favorite franchise as it is. It's kind of an obsession of mine. I've been learning a lot of newer things about it, like especially like tackling or going into, a particular actor who has played Jason, and seeing, taking a deep dive into their history as an actor and as a stuntman. It's very, very cool, and learning about all the different movies that they were on or involved in to some capacity, usually as a stuntman, and in some way, and then and some examples of them being an actor in certain films, and realizing, you know, these are there's a ton of movies, not just kind of exploitation movies, but a ton of big budget Hollywood films, that I've seen, and I had no idea that they were involved with those movies. So pretty wild, pretty cool, pretty diverse too, like really diverse. So last weekend we or last week actually was my dad's birthday, so we did a series of birthday celebrations for my dad. His birthday was actually on Friday, the first day of spring. He turned 90 years old, which is a trip, total trip. So we did three kind of dinners or get-togethers. Sunday last week we went to Chinese, this actually really great Chinese buffet in Bangor. And then, of course, because it was only 5 minutes away, 10 minutes away, we went to Bull Moose and I got some killer movies. So I'm going to be talking about one of the movies that I got that I just was kind of floored by and kind of blown away by. And then, so Sunday we did a big meal, had Chinese food, and then Tuesday was St. Patrick's Day. We had corned beef and cabbage there, and then we did a movie night like we always usually do. And then Friday night we had another dinner, which was the main dinner with cake and everything, and we watched another movie. So I did two videos on those both of those movies. I don't remember either of those movies being very good. They were newer films, I believe. So yeah, I don't know. It's I've been kind of I've been in all actuality, in all honesty, I've been kind of bummed out by some of some of the new movies that have been coming out for 2026. Technically, the movies that I saw were 2025 more or less. Been really kind of bummed out by that. But overall, 2026 I think has been compared to 2025 and 2024, it's been kind of a bummer as far as new movies go. The two movies that I rented at my folks for my folks is when we got together for my dad's birthday were both movies that were they're both DVD rentals. I know if you kids out there don't know what the word rental means, but um, and they were both movies were technically from 2025. One was Sizu, the second one Road to Revenge, which was super lame. That movie was one of the worst movies I've seen in a long time. It's a sequel to a pretty good, decent movie. The first one, Sizu. I rewatched it. We actually did a double header that night and watched the original. It's okay. I liked it, and it's significantly better, but I didn't like it as much the second time I watched it. I don't know. The second one is just absolutely awful. Like, and then we watched another movie on Friday, which I have a review for up on the channel, Dead of Winter, which was another movie that was like such a disappointment, starring Emma Thompson. Really great cast. I don't know what the hell is going on, but other than that, it's been kind of a lame year as far as new movies go. Yeah, I haven't seen anything in the theater that has really blown me away, and I haven't. The last two times I went to the theater, I saw two Friday 13th movies, and that was absolutely amazing. The most recent new film I saw was Undertone, and that movie again, interesting movie, interesting premise because it's a very POV kind of based movie, like from the perspective of the actors and kind of the protagonist of the story. And the sound design is really interesting and kind of cool, and you do get a different perception of how to experience a movie. The sound element is really cool, and it's kind of an innovative thing. It also is, I don't know, it's one of those things like it's really good until it's not. I sometimes think, in art, for instance, like you can have a cool creative idea, and I think it's something that can happen a lot. And I know for me personally, as I call myself an artist, but as for me personally, I'm guilty of it too. So I have to be like pretty, mindful of not to overuse something, or then, you have something that is interesting, maybe kind of a new idea, kind of a fresh approach, but then you start using that, you overuse it, and then it's not as effective. And I think that's what happens with Undertone, where they have this new, interesting way of how to experience the movie through the sound, and the sound being like a character. I think at the end of the day, it like gets annoying because it's so much. It's that's all you really get, and it kind of gets annoying, to be honest. Like by the end of it, I was like just if it was really disorienting, but not in a good way, and it was like really obnoxious. I don't know. You couldn't really understand what the hell was going on, especially if there was dialogue. Yeah, and that movie was so. That movie has been so hyped, and it's an A24. So every A24 film gets so freaking hyped all the time. And again, the other two movies I saw in the theater were older films, Friday the 13th movies, and they're amazing. So, but other than that, it's been pretty dismal. So, again, we went to Bull Moose, got some really fantastic movies. So today's show is on one of the movies that I bought, and I was just blown away by this movie. It's one of those things too where I've been buying, a lot of movies. I haven't been buying as many movies as I would like as of late, but I had a pretty good haul of movies, new movies around Christmas time, December, January. And I don't know if I got it's been a while actually. But this past weekend or last weekend I went to Bull Moose and it was fantastic. I'm at a point now where I've been buying a lot of, movies, a lot of exploitation movies, a lot of new releases from all of the boutique labels that I really really love, and I've been just blown away by the quality of these movies. And 99% of the films that I've been buying is, well, definitely when it comes to my favorite label, which this movie was put out by, or this company was put out by. And that is the label. First and foremost is Mondo Macabro, which is my favorite exploitation label of all time. It's just so damn good. It's so good. They just have so many fantastic movies. Definitely like the most obscure. Like Mono Macabre really specializes. Like first and foremost, it's a low down and dirty, exploitation label. They just show and or release all kinds of really really obscure and low budget exploitation movies. They especially have a lot of European movies, but they also have a lot of Asian films. Lots of I've gotten quite a few like Indonesian films, also Japanese films, a lot of European films. Really like, and the diversity of the films that they put out is unbelievable. And some of these movies are like I really love some wacky shit. If the movie's good and it's totally bonkers crazy, that's a bonus for me. And so I love when certain films will mix, horror, they'll mix comedy, surrealism, extreme gore, extreme violence, all those things. And a lot of these movies really, I mean, they're definitely horror movies, they're definitely exploitation movies, but in a lot of ways they're hard to define because there's so many different elements to a lot of these movies. It's like these directors in a lot of these films, like they don't have any, constraints, and it's really inspiring because a lot of these films will have elements of science fiction. They'll have elements of action, crime dramas, sleazy sex exploitation or psychosexual movie themed films. Yeah, slasher movies, just everything. But and some movies that I've gotten through Mono Macabre are movies that almost have every of those elements within one particular movie, and it's pretty fucking wild, like crazy. And a lot of their titles, a lot of their movies tend to be really like just gonzo, like they're going for it. And even like their whole motto for Mondo Macabro is the wild side or the wild world of cinema, and it really is that when you experience a Mondo Macabro release. And again, so I'm at a point now. I have a lot of Mondo Macabro releases. Mondo Macabro is definitely my favorite label, just in general. My favorite label, boutique label that puts out movies, reissues. But when it comes to exploitation movies, they fucking take a torch to everyone, as far as I'm concerned. And there's a lot of great labels out there. Don't get me wrong. I really love Severn Films. They put out so many great movies, and I'm a huge fan of Blue Underground. Some of the movies I did get a couple of Mondo Macabro, which is today's movie. I got two releases from them, also a new Severn title, and then also another Blue Underground title. So those are pretty much my three favorite labels. There's all kinds of other labels, but Mono Macabro is my favorite. Severn is fantastic as well, and Blue Underground. So like anytime I'm at a point, and again, there's a lot of labels out there now, but I'm at a point now where if I see a movie in the shop, and that's kind of what happened this, when I went to Blue Moose. If I see a Mono Macabro title or a Blue Underground title or a Severn title, and it's a movie I don't own, I usually just will pick it up, regardless of whatever. So 90% of the time, or 95% of the time, it's a movie I've never seen or heard about, and I've just been so surprised. So today's show is on a movie I was, again, so surprised and kind of blown away by. It's a movie called The Power of Darkness, and it came out in 1979. It's a Spanish exploitation cult thriller. It's really, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. It's essentially a thriller. But this movie I was completely blown away by. It's a slow burn film. It's a Spanish film. It came out in 79. It's one of those movies like I was sold I was sold on this artwork. I mean, it's just amazing. It's so cool. This movie is super interesting. That's kind of putting it mildly. Essentially, this movie is about it's a thriller. It's also, I kind of feel like this movie is a portrayal of somebody descending into madness, mental illness and paranoia, and going down that downward spiral in that journey, and ultimately what kind of happens, and kind of the maybe the people around him or the world around him, the perception of what that particular person is going through, and their what they perceive reality to be, and then the actual real world around them, and people that they know and how they're reacting. But essentially, this movie is about someone's kind of descent into madness. So it's a real good, feel good, real good family wholesome movie. But it's a Mondo Macabro title, and that's the thing with Mondo Macabro. Macabro, they have the most, again, so many great labels, like I mentioned, that are out there. So many fantastic boutique labels. But not only the reasons I love Mondo Macabro is because I feel like they take the deepest dive. Like I love taking like a super deep dive, the deepest dive that I can possibly take when it comes to exploitation. That's the thing that I love. The big thing that kicked that off for me was my love of horror. Like I really, I love horror so much. It's my favorite genre. So that's kind of how it all started. Because I love, and it's not just horror, but if I'm into a style or a genre, or I really love to take a deep dive and to see kind of where it kind of started, where the origins of it, where it began. And that's kind of what I started doing with horror, and then realizing, wow, this stuff goes way back, goes even further. And then by doing that, I, discovered so many more directors, and eventually I discovered Mondo Macabro through that. So, and a lot of their films tend to be from mid to late 70s, sometimes early 70s, even 60s, but 70s and 80s, the prime time, when the exploitation thing was really happening. They also take the most obscure movies. Like a lot of these movies are, I think, even more so than any other label that I know of. I mean, there's a lot that do that. Obviously, Severin and Blue Underground, and you know, Arrow does some good deep dives, and there's a handful of other labels. But there's something different with Mondo Macabre where they find the most fucking obscure, bizarro movie that you could possibly imagine, and then they somehow get the rights to the movie, bring it back, and give it this whole new second life and release it in Blu-ray or 4K. And it's crazy. Like the most obscure, the most bizarre shit you can ever imagine they have in their collection on Blu-ray or 4K. And that's just like that's crazy. Like that's just insane. A lot of collectors say it and I totally believe it, but if you're a collector for these trashy movies, it's it's like the best time to be alive. Explaining this movie is going to be interesting because the premise of this movie is basically about, well, again, it's a portrayal. I feel like at the end of the day it's a thriller. It has a little bit of an element. I feel like there's a few elements, a little there's some things that happen in the film, particularly around maybe the cinematography, where it feels like it is inspired by some giallo. Definitely, I think that giallo, and that obviously the thriller aspect. That's a major component of giallo films. So it definitely has that vibe, even though it's not a straight giallo film. It has, again, the thing that's so interesting about the Power of Darkness is it's hard to define what kind of movie it is. It's definitely an exploitation movie. It's super low budget, but it also is really beautifully shot. The cinematography in this movie is absolutely spectacular. The the writing is really really good, and the cast is really fantastic. The direction of this film, the music is just really really great. It's an exploitation movie, but it's kind of this high level film also. Definitely has an art house vibe. I think people who are not into, just pure sleazy, trashy films would probably dig this movie if they have a love for, European cinema, but then films that are kind of considered to be more like art house or surrealistic films. I think, if I think it's possible for someone who says loves like the films of Truffaut or um, Louis Buñuel or you know um, a handful of other like European directors, Fellini. I think you could dig this movie, even though it's an exploitation movie and it's very low budget. It has that vibe. It's a very interesting thing to me when a film that is technically an exploitation movie has some quality about it that is really, I don't know, artistic. It's not just, it is trashy cinema, but it has some depth to it. And this movie isn't so much on the trashy side, but it definitely has elements. I think it's definitely a thriller. I feel like it has a giallo vibe. It's got elements, like I couldn't say that this is a horror film. I couldn't say it's a science fiction film. I couldn't say it's a drama. It's a little bit of everything. Like it's got elements of horror in it. Very suspenseful. It's psychologically, it's a psychological thriller, and it's a thriller. I think it also has almost I don't know, almost like a science fiction vibe at times. there were some moments in this film that kind of reminded me of, or maybe it was an influence on this movie, which it might have been, but there were a few moments in this movie where it reminded me a lot of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Again, classic science fiction. So I kind of feel like maybe that was an influence. So it's got elements of horror, elements of giallo, and it's very suspenseful. It's definitely a thriller. Elements of science fiction, and it has this very surrealistic kind of vibe to it as well. And it's a slow burn. It's a pretty slow film, and it's a little bit longer. It's a just shy of 2 hours, and it's a little bit of a slow burn, but it's really interesting. There were a few times in the film where wow, I really wonder where the hell this is going to go. And the whole centerpiece is about this guy who starts having these visions and these paranoid visions that, well, that the world is going to end, but it's going to be kind of taken over by blind people, and he has this, I don't know, fascination or obsession with people who are blind. There's like this whole situation of where him and another character, when they were young, they did some pretty awful things where they essentially kind of like tortured these birds, and there's like these weird sequences when they were kids of where they gathered these birds and they and again it's hard to see or say if that was, maybe it was a kind of this dream sequence, but I actually think it was happened where you get these. It starts off with these characters that are the main characters, but as kids, and they do these horrible things of where they gather these birds and they essentially cut the eyes out of these birds, and it's really fucking weird and crazy. And then it fast forwards years later, and one of the guys starts having these visions that he's seeing people follow him. You know, he has all these paranoid delusions, and he's starting to feel that people are basically after him to kill him. And every one of those people that he's seeing is a blind person. So everywhere he walks, and the whole movie is about him trying to find out what's happening, him trying to reconnect with his friend and trying to understand this weird mystery. And it's a descent into madness, and it's really bizarre and really interesting. It's super weird, and it's very slow and very mysterious. And again, it has some real, probably maybe more on the subtle side of things, with the influence of like the horror genre and the science fiction genre. And again, there were moments of where I definitely got giallo vibes, and then I thought this movie definitely reminded me of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where there's that sense of paranoia and everyone around you is out to get you or is the enemy, and it's also about kind of the end of the world. You know, it's kind of this apocalyptic vision that this guy is dealing with, and it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, and it's really subtle, especially the first couple acts. Like it's really good because you don't. There's moments where I wasn't sure what was actually real or not real, and there were times where I was maybe a little bit confused. Like I wasn't sure where it was going to go. And it was slow, but then I stuck with it because I found myself really invested because I thought the writing in this movie is really, really good. It was directed by Mario Sabata. Looking this film up and doing some research, again, I just watched this last night. It's described as part conspiracy theory, part terror, part horror, part philosophical inquiry. And there is like a philosophical aspect to the movie. It does have some kind of deep things about where the main character is kind of learning about himself, even though he is descending into madness, he's also finding out who he is as a person within that. So it's really interesting. It's kind of complicated that way. Very interesting movie. The film is also based on this book, which sounds really interesting, on themes from the novel On Heroes and Tombs by Ernesto Sabato, who I believe there's a pretty good little special features thing on here. But Mario Sabato was the son of Ernesto Sabato. So it's kind of interesting. Like he's kind of adapting, although he's not. I guess the movie isn't a full like fully realized adaptation of his father's book, but he took a lot of the themes around from the book and adapted that part of it, which is really interesting. The cinematography for this film is again absolutely gorgeous. You do feel like you're in this dream state for the most part, and and it has a lot of twists and turns. It's not predictable really in any way. It's not a movie that that you're gonna throw on in the background and make yourself a sandwich or pet your cat. It's a movie that definitely demands and requires your attention, and it really is interesting because it's a slow burn, like the way the whole thing is kind of delivered. And I just watched this last night for the first time, and I felt like, huh, this is interesting. I'm not sure where it's going to go. And in about 35 minutes into it, I found myself totally drawn into the movie. And I was like, where the heck is this going to go? What kind of movie is this? Like, what? And I kind of felt like, wow, okay, it has these other elements, other genre elements, but it's really unique. It's a really strange film, but subtle also. But then the ending for this movie is super amazing. It's got one of the best endings and kind of sense of like wrapping up all of these themes because again, it's pretty complicated, dealing with a descent into madness, mental illness, kind of this conspiracy theory driven story, this idea of more or less like this philosophical angle of self discovery. It's a very personal movie. It's interesting finding out too that this movie was, you know, the director's dad made a book and then the director decided to adapt some of those aspects for the book for a movie, which I think was really interesting. So it's a very unique experience. Really cool atmosphere. And I believe that this was a brand new release from Mondo Macabro. Looking at my collection, I think I'm going to do a big update video where I'm just going to talk about. Wow, okay. And I just looked up Mondo Macabro. I just went to their website, and there's a certain edition, the limited red case edition, which is not the one I have, but I guess that's sold out. This is the Blu-ray version, but this is beautiful. I mean, the artwork is great. There is some really interesting special features on here, and it's mostly where they talk about the movie and what kind of inspired this film, the book that this film was kind of loosely based on. I really want to read this book too. It sounds wild. Yeah, very, very interesting movie. I really, again, that's the thing. I have a ton of. I don't have all of their movies, but I have a lot of Mondo Macabro titles now, and I have to say that's the thing that I'm taken aback by the most is the level of sheer diversity. They're all low down and dirty exploitation movies, but the sheer diversity in the genre, the different genres that these films are about or that they're in, is just is wild. It's like it's nothing. It's unlike anything I've seen. Mario Sabato. I definitely have heard of his name. I probably have seen some of his films. He died in 2023. Mario Sabato. Hmm. No, and again, this movie is it's a Spanish film. Or it was he's from Argentina. So the movie is in Spanish. The transfer of the subtitles is really great. It's really easy to see and to read. Some of the films that Mario Sabata directed were, well, of course, The Power of Darkness from '79. Another film, I can't really pronounce it, from 1982. Unpredictable Guy in 1980. Los Galapes Bajos 1974. Sorry, my Spanish is terrible. All of these films are in Spanish. Can't. I'm not gonna butcher this. Really interesting. I have never seen any of his other films. I've definitely heard of Mario Sabato though. This was definitely the first of his films that I've seen though. But extraordinary movie, like really really good. And again, I think this movie would be a movie that people who are not necessarily into exploitation movies would really find this super interesting because it definitely is. It has this art house vibe. It's really it's something. It's an experience, and it's really I love the just the originality of this movie. It's so original. I can't really compare it to anything I've seen in recent time. Like it's pretty unique. And the cast, the acting, tremendous, just tremendous. Sergio Renan as Fernando Vidal Olmos and Carlos Anton, Christina Benegas, Aldo Barbero, and Leonor Benedetto. It's a fantastic movie. And it's really interesting to see that this movie was based on Ernesto Sabato's report. The name of the book was Report on the Blind. And it was directed by his son, which is pretty interesting. But I can't recommend this movie enough. It's super cool. So many great elements. Again, went into this totally blind, well, pun intended. Never heard of this movie. Definitely never seen it. Didn't know anything about it. I literally bought when I saw this at Bull Moose. I literally saw the cover, and I was like, "Wow, this looks really, really cool." And I saw it was a Mondo Macabro title, and I definitely didn't have this in my collection, so I just snagged it up. So I threw it in, not knowing anything about it, and so awesome. Thanks again. Mondo Macabro rules. Peace.